Sahib, I see a disproportionate number of women come out to see you campaign. Is that your boyish charm? Is that the National Conference's appeal? I see it also with Shashi Tharoor in Thiruvananthapuram, and I'm noticing that here.
You know, I hadn't noticed it now that you mentioned it, but so be it, whatever works. I'm just glad to see a mix. You know, there was this sort of belief that National Conference only appeals to an older demographic and that the younger people are disillusioned with the National Conference and its policies. But look around you and you'll find both young men, young women actively participating and sort of being a part of the process along with the elder generation, which for us is very encouraging, because unless we have youngsters along with us, this party, this movement will die. But clearly that's not the case.
Omar Sahib, your campaigning style seems very managerial in some senses.
In what way?
You know, you're just trying to manage the whole thing, bring it together, direct and produce the own campaign. Do you feel that this comes to you naturally, or is it something that you work very hard on? Are you a natural born politician, or are you a politician who's worked towards becoming a politician?
How do you distinguish between the two? I mean, I am who I am. A lot of people will tell you that I'm not as sort of naturally inclined towards diving into crowds as my father is. But what you see is what you get. And clearly, my sort of workers and party colleagues seem to be happy to take me at face value. Assalamu alaikum. Seem to be happy to take me at face value. And that's it. I've always told them that in my case, it's not sort of, I'm not putting on an act. I'm not going to be one thing in the campaign and another afterwards. What you see is what you get, and if you like what you see, then sort of go for it.
How have the last 5 years changed you? How have you evolved as a person? How has your politics changed? How are you different today from what you were before the last Lok Sabha election?
Well, I'm a lot less trusting. I think there's a certain level of bitterness that you can't wish away. A certain amount of sort of a feeling of being sort of jaded, let down, betrayed. And it comes from a number of sort of developments. Obviously, foremost of those is the betrayal that J&K had to face. But at a personal level, I've sort of felt a sense of betrayal from some of the people who I had worked closely with, who are no longer with us now, who have looked for greener pastures.
Omar Sahib, I see a lot of the women holding these jerry cans. Water and electricity seems to be a problem.
Water is a huge problem in this area. And in the short time that I was their MLA, I had got money sanctioned for a water project here. But unfortunately, once the elected government went and governor's rule came in, that project was stalled. Now this whole talk of the government of India of Naya Jammu Kashmir development, you're seeing on the ground here. It's not visible. This whole Jal, Har Ghar, Nal, Har Ghar Jal. Here, this is the answer for you.
No, but
Har Ghar Nal, Har Ghar Jal is just a hollow slogan. People are walking around for kilometers to get water.
No, but that could be a work in progress. From what I hear, government officers are coming in on time. That corruption seems to be relatively lesser than it used to be. Earlier there was blatant corruption which seems to have come down a few notches.
Absolutely not. In fact, if anything, it's gone higher. The only difference is now allegations of corruption are completely ignored. In the this Jal Shakti thing that we're talking about, this Har Ghar Nal, Har Ghar Jal, serious allegations were leveled by an IAS officer of J&K state about the levels of corruption running into thousands of crores on procurement of material under this scheme. But those allegations have been completely swept under the carpet. So don't be under any mistaken illusion that corruption is less. In fact, if anything, corruption is worse now. As far as government offices are concerned, the people here will tell you, there is almost nobody in government offices who's ready to listen to them. There is no accountability. Everyone is a ruler in their own right. And the concerns of the people are given short shift.
The thing about these toffees they keep throwing is you don't need to stop for a refreshment or snack break. You can just open some of those eclairs.
That's why you haven't got anything to eat so far. Everything is being dropped on you from everywhere around.
Omar Saab, this Lok Sabha election will be followed by the assembly election in Jammu and Kashmir. For you individually and for your party, which one is more important? Like, how do you see the two?
No, they're both important. This now is sort of has taken on the character of a semi-final, and it's also given us an opportunity to test how constituencies are reacting, because we had sort of a delimitation exercise that was done last year, and all constituencies have been redrawn, parliamentary as well as assembly. So for us, this is in some ways a test of how individual constituencies are going to respond, where their boundaries are, and all the rest of it. But clearly, for a regional political party that has a very minor role to play in the politics of union government formation, for us, the assembly elections assumes far greater significance.
I asked because I heard an old interview of yours where you were saying that till the time statehood is restored, you won't be fighting an assembly election. So do you intend, like you are contesting this time from Baramulla, do you intend to contest the assembly election?
I won't be contesting any assembly elections under a UT government.
But then how will you become chief minister?
I'm not looking to become chief minister right now.
Why not?
I'm not going to be the chief minister of a union territory and humiliate myself. I have been the chief minister of the most empowered state of Jammu and Kashmir, of India, and that too for 6 years. I'm not going to have to beg and bow before a lieutenant governor or a governor to get every single file
No,
clear.
but the government has said they will restore statehood to Jammu and Kashmir.
When they restore statehood, then we'll talk.
The BJP's campaign in Kashmir seems to be in high gear.
I'm actually surprised to see this, because the BJP has no candidates in Kashmir. So, and it's a language that nobody here speaks, or hardly anyone speaks or understands. So clearly this billboard is not aimed at Kashmiri voters. It's aimed, because this road goes to Gulmarg. This is aimed at catching tourists.
But there seem to be some parties in the valley now and quite a few leaders who are not as animostic towards the central government as the original valley parties are. You all are called the dynastic parties. The Abdullahs and the Muftis, the dynastic parties, and there's a new Kashmir with new parties that they claim is rising.
In which case, we'll wait for the results and see how far they've risen. Let's wait. The fact that the BJP feels the need to prop them up tells you that they haven't risen as much as the BJP would like to believe. And I think the results, one of them is an old party. One of them has been around, the one that is fighting against me has been around from my grandfather's time. So it's not a new party for a new Jammu and Kashmir. But the other party that has candidates in Srinagar and Anantnag, that is a relatively new party. As far as dynastic politics is concerned, I've always said the BJP doesn't have a problem with dynastic politics. It has a problem with those families who are opposed to the BJP. Otherwise, if my information is correct, 1 in 5 of the mandates that the BJP has distributed have been to political families. You've seen just now what they've done with that wrestler, that wrestling federation fellow.
Raj Bhushan.
Yeah, they didn't give him the mandate, but they gave it to his son. What is that? Is that not dynastic politics?
शेर कश्मीर यहाँ पर बहुत सारी जगह बहुत टाइम आया है फोटोग्राफी प्लीज सर चलिए
Umar Saab, on a scale of 1 to 10, how religious do you think you are?
I wouldn't put a number on it, and why should I? I think faith, religion, they're very personal things, and it has never been an endeavor of mine to politicize either my religion or my faith or my belief. I haven't done it in 25 odd years of politics. I don't intend to start now.
We're joined by the two sons of Omar Abdullah. Saw you guys skiing on the slopes of Gulmarg growing up. It's nice to see you out on the campaign trail. It's the first time you guys are out. What's your name?
Zamir.
And what's your name?
Zahir.
Zahir. You guys enjoy being out on the campaign trail? Is it the first time?
The first time this election. We love connecting with the people. Our goal is to connect with the people, and I feel like we're most alive when we're surrounded by our people.
So you're lawyers, right?
Yes, we are lawyers by education and profession, and we were practicing mainly in the lower courts in Delhi and Delhi High Court.
So what's more fun, being in the courts of law or being in the courts of the people?
They're both incredibly different experiences, but for me, being amongst the people is more fun.
So you come from a very pedigreed political family. What's important to you? Like, why are you out? You could be just right now in a courtroom practicing law. Why are you doing this?
Well, firstly, I feel like the bloodline we come from has a inherent task to connect with the people and be with the people and further the aspirations and the goals of the people, to work for them, to uplift them. I feel like, especially following Sheikh Saab's footsteps and the sort of legacy that he has created, I seek to follow him.
So you want to be in politics as well?
No, there's no decision that's been made as of today to be in politics or not be in politics. The only decision is to be amongst the people right now.
You enjoying this?
That I am, yes.
Okay, good. Let's hop back on. Omar Saab, I see your sons are accompanying you on the campaign trail. Is this a bit of a political internship of sorts?
Nothing of the sort. They are, at the moment, branching off from working for other people as lawyers to working for themselves. And they have a bit of spare time. So I thought I'll show them that politics isn't all a bed of roses and fun and games. It's actually a fair amount of hard work.
Did your dad actively groom you to become a politician, or did it happen by happenstance?
I think everybody else in the party groomed me. My dad was probably the only one who chose not to, and sensibly. I think I had to find my own place. I had to find my own, how do I put it? I had to see who I was, rather than try and mold myself on who he is. And that's the way it should be. I can share one. Yeah. So make one for Rahul.
Omar Saab, there have been charges that you, your family, the party have been in cahoots with the BJP, that there is some kind of a secret understanding. You know, like Devendra Rana used to be with you for so long. He, Ghulam Nabi Azad, many have said that there's some kind of like a secret understanding between the Abdullahs and the BJP.
Yeah, which is why the BJP is going out of its way to defeat us. If we were in cahoots with them, the South Kashmir election would never have been postponed. If we were in cahoots with them, you wouldn't see Apni Party and People's Conference and others all uniting to try and beat me. They're doing everything possible to defeat the National Conference candidates in this election, to the extent that they're even announcing support for Mehbooba in Rajouri, Poonch and places like that. If we were in cahoots, I wouldn't have to work as hard as I am doing to try and win this election.
There have been charges that at different times you've tried to ally with the BJP.
The only time we've allied with them was when we were in the NDA, during Vajpayee Saab's time. Never after that. We were the ones who tried to stop the alliance between the PDP and the BJP way back in 2014 because we recognized the threat that that alliance posed to Jammu and Kashmir. We announced unconditional support to the PDP together with the Congress, not once but twice. We did it once in 2014, early 15, and once again in 2018. Both times, even in 16 in fact, we were the ones who appealed to the governor to not allow horse trading, because at that time the PDP was at risk of being broken at the behest of the BJP, but we put a stop to it.
In the way the assembly segments have been reconfigured during delimitation, it's quite
Well, that's another one.
that
If we were in cahoots with the BJP, there is no way we would have been at the receiving end of delimitation. The delimitation exercise has largely been done to disadvantage the National Conference.
But it's quite possible that in the assembly elections that follow the Lok Sabha elections, one party may not get a majority. At that point in time, you'll have to weigh the question of whether you'll ally with the BJP.
You know, I've made a habit out of not giving categorical answers to hypothetical questions. You're painting a hypothetical situation. I'll paint another one. National Conference get a majority all of its own. We don't need to ally with anybody.
But you know that's very difficult now.
Why?
Okay.
Why? let's wait to see. I mean, see how these
If you
results
don't
go.
get it, you're not ruling out the possibility
I'm
of a
not.
tie-up.
We're not interested in an alliance with the BJP. Absolutely not. And I do not believe that the people of Jammu and Kashmir will vote the BJP into any sort of position where they'll be part of a power sharing
ये
arrangement.
सब पहले बोलते हैं, फिर जब टाइम आता है तो कर लेते हैं
नहीं नहीं,
alliance.
करना तो है ही नहीं. बीजेपी की वो औकात ही नहीं होगी कि वो हुकूमत में शामिल होंगे.
Umar sir, I'm very curious. Have you seen this new film, Article 370? Not seen.
Nope, not interested.
Why-
I'm not very keen on propaganda. I'd rather watch. I mean, look, if something is factual and it's a documentary, I'll happily watch it. But
Because
when
this
you,
is one
but when
character
you, when
who's
you,
you, so I was
know,
kind of wondering
but
what you were
when you,
thinking
when
of
you,
it.
when you take a sort of a realistic situation and you make fiction out of it, then I really have very little interest or very little time for that.
There've been a slew of films, Kashmir Files, this on, you know, this new Kashmir.
Each
it's
one
kind of-
worse than the other, all done at the behest
कोई नहीं
of-
देखी आपने?
No. Why would I?
Kashmir
Look, any
Files.
movie that is going to be promoted by the Honorable Prime Minister and the Honorable Home Minister and the BJP's ecosystem tells me everything I need to know about that movie. And I mean,
Just out of curiosity कि मेरे बारे में क्या बोल रहे हैं, क्या दिखाया?
I only have to open social media to say मेरे बारे में क्या कह रहे हैं. Not interested.
In the period soon after Article 370 was abrogated, you were kind of in isolation. How tough was that for you?
Actually, I think it was tougher for the people around me than it was for me. I'm pretty comfortable in my own company. Also, I had the experience, I mean, being away from my family was not a new experience for me. I spent 8 years in boarding school and 3 years in college in what was then Bombay. So, extended periods away from home was not a new experience, and I quite sort of quickly settled into a routine, and then one day blended into another. The only difference between that detention and being packed off to boarding school was at least boarding school had a finite date. You knew which day you were going home. In the case of this detention, you just never knew, and every deadline that I sort of set for myself, that okay, they'll release us by here, by then, never seemed to work until finally it was the end of March.
But how do you deal with that uncertainty, not knowing how long this goes on?
Just don't dwell on it. There's no point dwelling on it. Shall we?